The reading strategy I decided to present for this week is KWL. Many of you might ask, what is KWL? I know there's tons of acronyms that as educating majors you always have to memorize, but KWL is one of the easiest ones to memorize. It's also one of the best strategies to use. KWL consists of a 3-column chart, which will just fit the letters of the name. So you're going to have K, W, and L. I find it best to put a line in between each of them. It just keeps all your thoughts on the boards organized, and it helps the students be able to identify quicker what sections you're at. Multiple ways you can do this. One way is up on a bulletin board or on a whiteboard. Another way is on a handout, which will be posted below the window. This is a great way to provide an in-class assignment for the students because they have a form to write it on. KWL is a great way to assess your students because as we go through this, you'll see this is a great way to assess their understanding before, during, and after lecture, which is a great way to help you provide key points to see where you need to provide more emphasis and where you can kind of back off and just skim over it. The first column you run across is the K column. This column is going to be based off what do the students know. This is a great thing to do before the lesson or before a review, because this allows you to get a kind of a grasp of where your students are understanding what knowledge they already understand. W stands for what the students want to know. There's going to be some points where they know that they need to know some information, but they don't know what it is or how it's going to be useful. So this is where they can pose their questions. They can write them down, and then depending on how you're using this is how they can get the questions answered. Finally, you have the L column. This is the very end. This is going to be where what have they learned. This is where they're going to put the answers for what they have learned in this column. You put these two together, it becomes a great reading activity, and there's multiple ways to use this. In my lesson plan, which I've used it for a review activity for pre-calculus midterm exam. So for this, the book they'd be using would be their normal in-class pre-calculus textbook, which they'd be referring to for when they need answers. So what happens, I would hand them their review guide, and either we do this as a class, maybe to start off just to see where do I need to pose a little more emphasis on reviewing. If not, I can hand them this worksheet. And what they'll do is, as they're flipping through and working through their review guide, they'll go ahead and write things, what do I know? So maybe they know right away, I have no more questions on logarithms. So they would write in here, logarithms. That way you know, let's say this is John's paper, John knows logarithms, and he feels like he could ace this part of the exam. They'll keep working, maybe they get to the point where it's solving for equations. And like, I don't know that much, I don't feel as comfortable about it, so they would put it solving equations, or they would phrase it as a question, or how do you solve equations, or I don't quite understand this. Depending on the classroom setting, this might be the time where you might have them have to ask so many questions before they can come ask you. You have to ask 2 different students before you can come to the teacher for help, and you're going to help them. Another way is this section is a great way to incorporate other reading strategies as highlighting, underlining, circling. But what you can do is you can have the students go back into their notes and try to figure out where this is at and tell them maybe highlight that in their notes or even go into the textbook. With this review guide, it's a great thing for them to have their notes and textbook next to them. At this point, they can go back in and search in their book, where do we talk about solving equations? They then can highlight or circle or take notes of what page number it is, and they can look. In the end, they should be able to say, okay, solving equations, there's multiple ways I can do that. I could factor, quadratic formula, completing the square, and graph. Now the students are going to now they have the answers to their questions. This is one way. If they have their handout, they can go ahead and write it in the column, and they know this is where I've had, and they also, when they're studying, they can go back. Maybe they come across this question again, they can come back to this and see, oh, these are the 4 ways I can do it. Now, one thing with the whiteboard is it might fill up quickly if you're doing it with the whole class, and the same thing if you're doing the individual sheets, they might run out of room. Which is one thing where you can have notebook paper. There's many ways in which you can make this easy 3-column setup. Now, I know many of you are asking, well, how can I use this in my content area? Often, yes, this is reviewed for review, but a way this can be used in an English classroom is just say you're getting ready to start a novel. a lot of students, when you get to novels in high school and middle school, there's going to be some that they've already read, or at least they've heard of. So there's going to be some stuff about the book or novel they already know. There's also a lot they can know from the cover, from the back, or just from some simple introduction conversation. They're going to be stuff they already know. The W section, or what they need to know or want to know, this is a great area for, as a teacher, to pose questions like, how do you think the climaxes would be, or who are the main characters, what is the setting? And this will provide them an area of questions as a reading that they know that they're going to need to fill out for the L section. This is a great way to keep them focused while they're reading, because they know I need to be trying to find answers to these questions. But at the same time, some of them might already know, they might not need to know all this. They may have read the book or might be ahead and they know these questions, but it just helps them keep accountable for their work. This also works just in normal classroom settings, in a science classroom, math classroom, PE classroom, where there's going to be certain things where you're going to get started going on a topic, and a lot of times topics overlap throughout grades. This is a great way to see what understanding the students have for that subject. So you know, maybe you're in science and you're looking at cells. There might be stuff they already know about cells from like life science, where you would no longer need to do as much emphasis on maybe the mitosis and those types of stages, and you could move on to more detailed subject matter, which is how it works for all the subject matters. If you find stuff that they really know well, that means when you get to this section, maybe you can focus on some more of the obscure properties that normally in a normal classroom you wouldn't be able to get to because the students don't understand. Either way, these are great ways you can use just your normal textbooks. In English class, you're going to be using your novels. But these will all just help the students achieve the objective. For my review session here, my objective would be the students to be able to use the KWL chart to go through the review guide, identify areas they need help on, obtain help, and then feel on a scale of 1 to 10 about an 8 comfortability level after completing this assignment. That way we know on the next couple of days before the test, we can get them up to the level of 10 just by focusing on the subjects or the topics they have in the section. All in all, KWL is a very easy strategy to use, and also a very easy strategy to incorporate other reading strategies in together. All in all, this would be a great way to provide easy assessment in the classroom, but also provide a different type of learning activity other than this taking a lecture and notes.